In the quiet corner of a sleepless night, I sat beside the shadow of my own soul, listening to the echo of things I lost, things that once made my heart whole. The moon looked tired above my roof, like it had cried for centuries, and the wind whispered softly, carrying forgotten memories. I asked the sky a silent question: why does existence feel so torn? Why do some hearts keep beating even after their hope is gone? Every street looked empty tonight, even though the world was awake, because loneliness is a strange companion only the broken can truly take. I walked through the ruins of yesterday, where laughter once lived and breathed, but now only dust remained from promises that quietly deceived. My reflection in the window asked me, "Who are you trying to be?" I smiled sadly at the stranger that life had turned into me. Once I believed in tomorrow, in miracles and gentle grace, but time slowly erased those dreams from the lines on my face. People say existence is beautiful, like gardens after spring rain, but no one speaks about the nights when beauty hides behind pain. I carried memories like fragile glass, afraid they would shatter apart, but the truth is time already broke them inside the chambers of my heart. Every heartbeat felt heavier, like it carried a silent scream, because sometimes living feels like surviving a broken dream. The stars above looked distant tonight, like they had forgotten my name. Perhaps the universe itself had grown tired of my pain. I remember the days of laughter, when sunlight lived in my chest, when hope walked beside me like a loyal and gentle guest. But existence slowly changed its face, like seasons turning cold, and every chapter of my story became a little more old. I tried to rebuild my spirit from the ashes of who I was, but broken pieces rarely remember the shape they once had. Sometimes I wonder quietly if souls also get tired, if dreams eventually surrender after being endlessly fired. The wind knocked softly on my door, like a traveler asking to stay, and it carried the voice of yesterday that refused to fade away. "Do you remember who you were?" the wind whispered in despair, before the world carved sadness into every breath of air. Yes, I remember those mornings, when existence felt light and kind, when hope was a fearless bird flying freely inside my mind. But life has strange ways of bending fragile wings, and sometimes the sky forgets the beauty that flight brings. My footsteps echoed through silence as I walked an empty road, carrying the invisible weight of an invisible load. No one noticed my quiet war, the battles fought inside, because broken souls often learn how perfectly to hide. I built walls around my heart from every painful goodbye, brick by brick with silent tears that even I deny. But walls cannot silence memories, nor erase what used to be, because every scar is a story written endlessly. The night grew deeper around me, like a book of endless black, and I kept walking forward though my soul kept looking back. Sometimes existence feels like a candle in a storm, trying desperately to stay alive in a world no longer warm. Yet the flame still flickers softly, though fragile and alone, because even broken existence refuses to turn to stone. I whispered to the quiet stars, "Tell me where my dreams went," but the sky stayed silent as if heaven had already been spent. Maybe existence itself is broken, like a mirror dropped in time, each shard reflecting a different truth in a different rhyme. Some people call this life, some call it destiny, but to me it feels like wandering through unfinished memory. Still I keep breathing slowly, though every breath feels thin, because even in broken existence there is a stubborn will within. The night listened patiently to every word I said, like it understood the sorrow living inside my head. And somewhere beyond the darkness a quiet truth began to rise. Even shattered souls continue living, even when existence breaks their skies. The night did not answer my questions, but it stayed beside me in silence, like an old friend who understands the language of quiet violence. I walked beneath a tired streetlight, watching moths circle the glow, tiny creatures chasing warmth in a world that rarely lets it show. Perhaps I was just like them, drawn toward something bright, even though every attempt burned my fragile light. Broken existence is strange. It teaches you to breathe through cracks, to smile in crowded rooms while your heart slowly collapses. Morning once meant beginnings, a promise wrapped in golden air, But now the sunrise only whispers of another day I must repair. I used to believe in destiny, in stories written by stars above, but the pages of my life were stained with the ink of lost love. People pass me on busy roads, their laughter floating through the sky, yet none of them can hear the quiet reasons why I cry. Because tears are invisible sometimes, hidden behind ordinary eyes, and broken existence masters the art of silent disguise. I once built castles in my mind, with towers made of hope, but storms of reality arrived and cut down every rope. Dreams fell like shattered glass, scattering across my years, and every sharp reflection was carved with hidden tears. I remember holding promises like sacred words of gold, but promises are fragile things when hearts grow tired and cold. Time slowly changed its rhythm, turning joy into regret, and the things I tried to forget are the things I can't forget. There are nights when memories knock loudly on my chest, demanding to be heard even when my soul needs rest. They tell me stories of laughter, of days that shone like flame, of a younger heart that believed life would never change. But existence has a cruel humor. It teaches through loss and pain, until every smile feels temporary like sunshine before rain. I tried to run from sadness, through cities and endless days, but sorrow travels lightly and always finds its way. It sits beside my shadow, following every step I take, reminding me of every bond that life chose to break. Still, something deep inside me refuses to surrender completely, a quiet, stubborn heartbeat that keeps whispering softly, "You are still here." Even when the nights grow heavy, even when hope disappears, even when existence feels like an ocean made of fears. I sometimes watch the clouds drift across the silent sky and wonder if they carry all the dreams that had to die. Perhaps somewhere beyond them there is a forgotten place, where broken souls can finally lay down their endless chase. But here on this fragile earth we continue walking alone, collecting pieces of ourselves that were never fully our own. Broken existence becomes a strange and lonely art, learning how to survive with fragments of a heart. Every breath becomes a battle, every sunrise feels unsure, yet somehow we keep going with wounds we cannot cure. Maybe strength is not about victory, maybe courage is simply this, continuing to live inside a life you almost miss. I sat beside the river tonight, watching dark water flow, thinking how easily the current lets everything go. But humans are different. We hold on to the past too tight, carrying old ghosts through every restless night. I whispered to the water, "Take my sorrow away." But rivers only listen, they never choose to stay. The stars slowly faded above me, making space for pale dawn light, and another day of existence stepped quietly into sight. Not a perfect day, not a joyful one, just another fragile chapter in a story still undone. Maybe broken existence is not meant to be repaired. Maybe it simply asks us to admit we are scared. Scared of losing more, scared of loving again, scared that tomorrow will repeat the same pain. Yet somewhere beneath the fear a fragile truth remains. Even broken existence still carries the pulse of life. And as long as that pulse continues, the story refuses to end. Dawn arrived quietly that morning, like a shy visitor at my door, its pale light touching the walls that had heard my sorrow before. The world outside began moving, cars humming on distant streets, while inside my fragile chest 2 tired heartbeats tried to meet. I poured a cup of silent thoughts instead of coffee for the day, because sometimes memories are the only words we say. Broken existence walked beside me like a shadow made of dust, a reminder that even breathing can feel like fragile trust. I stepped outside into daylight, yet darkness stayed in my mind, because sorrow is a traveler that refuses to stay behind. People hurried toward their futures with plans carefully arranged, but my road felt uncertain like a map that had been changed. I watched a child chasing pigeons with laughter bright and free, and for a moment I remembered who I used to be. Once my heart carried sunlight, once hope lived in my eyes, but life slowly taught me how fragile joy really lies. Dreams once bloomed like gardens inside my hopeful chest, but time turned them into ashes where silent regrets rest. Broken existence whispered softly, "You are not the only one." Yet loneliness has a strange way of making the world seem none. The sky looked endlessly wide, but my spirit felt confined, as if invisible walls had been built inside my mind. I tried to speak to the future, but the future turned away, because broken souls often struggle to believe in another day. Still, I kept walking slowly through streets filled with sound, searching for something lost that was never truly found. Maybe it was peace, maybe it was love, maybe it was a forgotten prayer floating somewhere above. I passed an old empty bench where two lovers once sat near, and the wind carried faint echoes of laughter I used to hear. Memories are strange companions. They visit without warning, turning an ordinary afternoon into a stormy morning. Broken existence becomes heavier with every passing year, because time collects emotions like raindrops of quiet fear. Sometimes I wonder deeply if hearts are meant to break, or if brokenness is simply a lesson we must take. Perhaps the soul grows wiser after every hidden scar, learning that healing journeys are longer than they are far. But wisdom is a lonely gift when it comes wrapped in pain, like a quiet desert flower blooming after endless rain. Evening slowly returned again, painting shadows on my wall, and the silence of my room began its familiar call. I sat beside the window watching the fading sun, thinking how many battles my weary heart had won. Not victories of glory or triumphs loud and bright, but silent survival through another endless night. Broken existence is strange. It doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it simply replaces happiness with quiet poise. You learn to speak less loudly, to hope a little less, to carry your shattered pieces with careful tenderness. And though the world keeps turning with chaos, love, and fear, your heart slowly becomes a quiet observer here. Yet deep inside the silence, a whisper still survives. Maybe tomorrow will hurt less. A small, fragile sentence, barely stronger than air, but sometimes a tiny hope is all a soul can bear. The night wrapped the sky again with its endless velvet shade, and I returned to the place where broken thoughts are made. But tonight felt slightly different, though sadness still remained, because surviving another day is a victory unexplained. So I closed my weary eyes and listened to my breath, the quiet rhythm reminding me I had not surrendered yet. Even in broken existence where dreams often cease, somewhere inside the darkness a heart still searches for peace. Night settled over the city again, like a blanket woven with quiet sorrow, and I wondered softly in the dark if my heart would survive tomorrow. Broken existence followed me through corridors of silent thought, where every lesson life had given was painfully learned and bought. The clock ticked slowly on the wall, counting moments I could not hold, reminding me that time itself is both merciful and cold. I opened the window to the wind, letting the restless air inside, hoping it might carry away the pain I tried to hide. But the wind only told old stories of places I had been before, of doors I closed forever and dreams that touched the floor. Sometimes existence feels like walking through endless rain, where every drop reminds you of another silent pain. I once believed hearts were strong, that love could never break, but even mountains crumble after too much earthquake. Broken existence taught me the language of quiet tears, how to smile politely while drowning in hidden fears. The city lights flickered outside, tiny stars upon the ground, yet none of their glowing comfort reached where my heart was bound. Loneliness sat beside me like a patient, unseen guest, knowing my tired spirit better than all the rest. I whispered to the darkness, "Will peace ever arrive?" But silence answered gently, "First you must survive. Survive the storms of memory. Survive the nights of doubt. Survive the heavy shadows that broken hearts bring out." There were moments long ago when laughter filled my chest, when life felt like a promise instead of a silent test. But time rewrote my story with ink made out of scars, turning hopeful wishes into distant fading stars. Still, somewhere in the ruins of dreams that fell apart, a fragile light kept glowing inside my restless heart. It was not bright or powerful, not fearless or complete, but it refused to vanish despite every defeat. Perhaps that tiny ember is what existence means, a stubborn spark of breathing inside forgotten dreams. Midnight arrived slowly, carrying its quiet grace, and the moon looked down upon me like it recognized my face. "Why do you keep walking?" The silent sky seemed to ask, when the road before you feels like an endless task. I answered with a whisper barely louder than a sigh. Because stopping feels like dying, and I am not ready to die. Broken existence may wound me, it may darken every day, but somewhere deep within me, a small hope finds its way. Hope that someday morning will carry softer light. Hope that pain will loosen its endless grip at night. Maybe healing takes decades, maybe peace comes late, but existence still moves forward even when burdened by fate. So I closed my tired eyes and listened to my soul breathe slow, feeling the quiet miracle of simply letting life flow. Because even shattered spirits still search the endless sky, still wonder about tomorrow, still ask the question why. And maybe that question itself is the reason we remain, to keep searching for meaning inside the deepest pain. Broken existence is not the end, though it often feels that way. It is merely the shadowed valley before another day. And somewhere beyond this darkness, past every hidden scar, a quiet dawn is waiting no matter how broken we are.